Is this why Brian may have murdered Gabby? And how do you create a safety plan? I'm going to be talking about all of those things in this video. Hey there, I'm Rebecca Zung. I am an attorney. I am a narcissist negotiation expert. And on this channel and in these videos, I talk to you about how to powerfully and actually shift the dynamic if you are dealing with narcissists in your life. And if this is something that you want to do, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. So I have, along with many of you, been following the story of the beautiful Gabby Petito. It has touched me in a very personal way because I have two daughters, and one of my daughters is actually not that far apart in age from Gabby Petito. I have a 19-year-old daughter who is a beautiful blonde-haired girl like Gabby, and my heart so much goes out to the Petito family. And I mean, gosh, she's all of our daughters, isn't she? I mean, just beautiful, and had her entire life ahead of her. And here she is wanting to just have a life, wanting to get in a van and blog and do an Instagram and be on YouTube and have a boyfriend, do all the things that girls want to do. And she just fell into the hands of the wrong guy. So a guy who was very charming, I'm sure, at the beginning. And they jumped into a van. Just so you know, for those of you who don't know a lot of this story, they jumped into a van at the beginning of July. They were going across country. They were going to be blogging about their story and visiting national parks, and it was going to be fantastic. And it started off wonderfully. They were putting stuff on social media about all the wonderful things that they were doing. And turns out not so great. Couple sees them fighting, sees him slapping her. They end up calling 911. The cops stop them in August. There's this body cam footage of how they were fighting. She's crying. I did actually a breakdown on that of how I think that he was actually a malignant narcissist. And I actually pointed out why I think he's a malignant narcissist in that video and the signs that I saw. I'm actually going to be doing another whole video on, I think, all the things that the cops actually missed on that. But, you know, I believe that he was a malignant narcissist. And malignant narcissists, by the way, have an overlay of being a sociopath. They're much more dangerous. These are the guys, or women too, who have a tendency to be the stalkers, the ones that can turn violent, the ones that have threats of violence. And I have seen them in my practice. You know, when I was practicing family law on a full-time basis, I would see these people, and this guy had those tendencies. So how I think that potentially this led to her murder was on August 27th. There was an explosive fight that happened at a Tex-Mex restaurant. It was at a place called the Mary Piglet's Restaurant, a Mexican cafe in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. A woman and her boyfriend were on vacation from New Orleans. They happened to be next to them at the restaurant, a woman named Nina Angelo and her boyfriend, Matt England. They were right next to them, and they saw them fighting at a restaurant on August 27th at 1 p.m. A massive, huge, explosive fight where Brian Laundrie, was fighting with the hostess and fighting with the manager and with the waitress. And Gabby was crying, and she abruptly leaves. And she's standing outside on the sidewalk and crying. And Brian goes in and out several times, at least 4 times, and appears to be fighting with the manager, the hostess, and the waitress aggressively arguing with them and appears to be fighting with them about money or the bill or something like that, and back and forth. And at some point then, after he leaves the last time, Gabby, who's very upset and crying, goes back in and apologizes for his behavior. And it's after that time, approximately 4 hours later, after this argument, that Brian is seen driving the van by himself. And it's after this that there's this other blogger that you see talking about how this white van, their van, is seen at the campsite not far from where her body ends up being found. And the van is there, and there's this, it's parked, and the back door is open, but somebody is inside, and you see the back door just mysteriously close as somebody drives past. And it's that same day, August 27th, that Gabby's mother receives this mysterious text message that says something about Stan. Can you help Stan? I keep getting his voicemails and missed calls, which refers to her grandfather. But her mother found it very odd because Gabby never referred to the grandfather by his first name. And then it was a few days later that she got another text message about them not having service. And Gabby's mother now believes that neither of those texts were actually from Gabby herself. So how could she have been murdered that day? Well, it's possible that he was super angry. We know that he was already in a rage. We know that he was already angry at the waitress, the hostess, and the manager, who were all women, by the way. He was already aggressive. He was already angry at them. He felt disrespected in some way at that restaurant. And the reason why he kept going back in is because he was in this power struggle with these women at the restaurant. And you know how it is with narcissists. They're in this power struggle. They need to feel respected. They need to feel adulated. They need to have this feeling of superiority. And with narcissists, it's always winners and losers. It's always you're either for them or against them. And they need to have that respect, and especially in a public setting. So they have to have that appearance of being the winner, of course. And so here it is in this public setting where all the people, all the patrons are seeing him, and apparently he's in this power struggle, and he's got this shame, right? And narcissists carry this deep sense of shame that they're constantly trying to cover up. And when that narcissistic injury, that shame gets triggered, that's when that narcissistic rage comes flying out, and especially for malignant narcissists. So it gets directed at who's ever around them. And we know that Gabby was already upset. Who knows if the two of them were already fighting about something separate, why she was hysterically crying. I don't know if they were already upset about something else, or if she was upset about something at the restaurant, but she was already hysterically crying, at least according to this couple. And we know that they were already having a hard time because they were fighting, just weeks before. And so the fact that she then went inside and apologized on his behalf to the restaurant people and then went back out, to him would have been absolutely the worst thing that she could have done. Now, I'm sure from her perspective, she didn't do it to disrespect him. I'm sure from her perspective, it was just, she felt terrible for them. The fact that he may have been horrible to them, she probably just felt bad for them. She's probably a very empathic person, empathetic person. She probably just wanted to smooth it over. But from his perspective, you're either for me or against me. And if you're for them, you're against me. And he may have thought, how dare you? And to him, that may have been, you need to be punished for that. And that may have been the absolute straw. And so when they got back into that van, for him, that may have been something that she may have had that may have been the thing that caused the final straw, you know, and who knows, she may have even said at that point, I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm done with this relationship. And that may have been a straw too. Who knows? And, you know, why didn't she reach out for help? It could have been that because the cops weren't of any help to her just a couple weeks before, that she didn't feel that they were going to be of any help. He sat there and charmed them. So she felt, well, he's probably just going to charm them again. I mean, the one cop said, oh, maybe you're the victim of domestic violence. And he sat there and smiled. I talked about that in my other video. So from her perspective, she's probably thinking, well, there's no reason for me to reach out to them because they're of no help, right? From his perspective, you know, he's got this very fragile ego. It was already triggered. He was already upset. He was already in a rage. She goes back in. She apologizes on his behalf. Boom. That was probably not a good thing for her to do. From his perspective, he may have said, that's it, you're done, you've got to pay. So I do want to just address, if you are in a situation where you are unsafe, where you do need to get out. I am going to post the domestic violence phone numbers again, just as I did in my last video. You do need to get out. I do want you to have a plan for your escape, as I mentioned before, so that you don't ever have to return, because it is absolutely much worse if you do have to return. So if you can have a stash of cash, that would be ideal. It would be ideal if you have at least enough to last you a couple of months. A stash of cash that is your own, in your own name, in a bank account that no one else has access to, that would be perfect. If you have a place to go that is safe, that is ideal. If you don't have a place to go that you can stay, that is safe, try to get yourself to a shelter. Usually there are shelters in your area. Try to get yourself to one. If you have children, have a plan for your children. Figure out what you're going to do with them. And if you can have a credit card in your own name, that would be ideal. And if you were going to hire a lawyer, now would be a good time to do that. If you decide that that is something that you want to do, have the lawyer hired ahead of time, and then make a plan with your lawyer as far as if you are planning to file for divorce, where and when you want to serve this person with divorce papers or not. And if you're planning to serve this person with a restraining order or something like that, figure out all of the logistics ahead of time with that as well. So those are my thoughts on creating a safe plan. If you are in this situation, please, please, please have a plan before you get, you decide to get to safety, but then please get to safety. All right. So thank you so much for watching. If you would like to subscribe to this channel, I invite you to do so now. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm Rebecca Zung. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see all of you guys in the next video.